want to thank you very much. Are both of the mics picking up my voice? Can everyone hear me fairly well? Okay, I have a strong voice, but after a while, it may begin to pallor again. Let me say that after hearing Brother Hemet talk many times, I say, hey, why say anything? He's going to cover it one way down the line eventually anyhow. Last night in the radio studio there, he was just jumping around and he was just all hyper and so on and so forth, and he blasted out some things. After I finished, I've done a lot of flying recently. I was kind of tired. This brother caught me out there in the hall, and then he started talking. Around 3 o'clock or 2:30 this morning, we finally left there. But the beauty of it is what he had to say was not just interesting, it was informative. He shared some tapes with me, some articles, which he did not have to do, and I know many brothers who say they are that won't do such. And when I get back to Chicago, I'm going to have to take 2 days aside. Don't ask me how. That's what it's going to take to just look over the voluminous material that you shared with me, and I thank you for that. When we talk in general about black consciousness, and we talk about the state of the world, I have to say that it's only with people like Uma, with people again like Emiola, with brothers like Robert Calloway, and I thank you very much. I know it was a difficult introduction for you, but you attempted to do it and did it well. Point is, again, your heart's in the right place, and that's the whole thing. Brother Hemet and many others that I don't know here. It is these kind of people that have to act as a solidarity complex, that act as a fulcrum, a center, to generate out to you so that your response and your energies can feed back and we can help each other to sustain. It's been a very long road, as the minister says. It's been a mighty long road, and it really has. The problem is we've just gotten now to the crossroads, the fork in the road. All of that hard complex, all of the assassinations, killings, all of the hard times, I won't say they're just beginning because you're tired of it. Many of you have gone through the struggle and are still in it. But now we're getting into a planetary struggle. Now we're getting to a time when all of this is coming to a head, when all the suffering and the questions and no one could understand why was this going on, why do people, black people suffer, why are white people so bad, why are Japanese people and Asiatic people also don't seem to be friendly with us, what the heck is it all about? Well, it's been a great purpose. The purpose now is unfolding as you see the many events happening around you. Our earth right now, by my understanding, is going through a great change. The earthquakes, the floods, the seismic activity, the tornadoes, the droughts, the plagues. Plagues, of course, such as AIDS. Plagues of such, now they're talking about coming back almost the bubonic plague. You've got encephalitis returning now with mosquito bites. The whole thing seems to be almost up for grabs. It's not up for grabs, it's just a kind of a time of chaos by my feelings and understandings. Many people I've talked with over the last 3 days, it's been quite a whirlwind, shall we say, and the advertisement stated it would be the woman lecture and either something about alien cultures or fourth encounters of close encounter of the fourth kind or something along this time. I'm going to talk a little bit about the alien cultures, a little bit about the whole idea and concepts of UFOs and how it started, where it is progressively now. I don't know that I can get in a whole thing on the woman lecture. I want to talk a little bit about the ozone layer that's breaking up, ozone therapies, hydrogen peroxide, stabilized oxygen, this kind of thing. There are some women who mention certain things about the woman lecture to ask could I cover that, but the body seems to be more involved with the UFO phenomena and so like that. I'm going to attempt to address all of them. The emphasis again on alien cultures and UFOs. When we're talking about unidentified flying objects, okay, I should have asked for a blackboard. I'm a blackboard user, but I'll paint the mental pictures. UFOs, or unidentified flying objects, means something that is solid, is unidentifiable. When you see it, you don't recognize it, and seems to be capable of aerodynamic lift, flight, mass. How many of you ever heard the term flying saucers? All right, now that differs from UFOs. Flying saucer is something that's capable of flight and looks like a saucer or a platter that's skimming around. just in passing, how many have ever seen what they consider a flying saucer? I don't mean the movies now. I mean in actuality, really up there. How many have ever seen, again, what they consider a UFO? Okay. The two are used conjointly, but they're not. They're separate. UFO means something that's up there. It's up there, but you don't even understand what you're seeing. It looks quite different from anything conventional. Flying saucer means something that looks like a platter that's spinning around usually, and you see all the movies with it per se. The term flying saucer was first utilized by Kenneth Arnold on June 24th, 1947. And I suggest to you, if you're not going to buy some of the tapes, then take a few notes at least on these dates, because these are the dates that people forget, and these are the things probably you can have reference to long after I leave. At that time, he was flying over the Cascade Range, again near Mount Rainier in Washington. He was a rich millionaire, dealt in potatoes, and flying a little P-47, a Piper Cub. And he stated that out to his right, he saw 9 kind of skimming lights or something that seemed to be glowing and flickering. As he watched, they made L turns, 90-degree turns, zoom, 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 okay? Something that aircraft, by the way, too, we're talking about 1947, so there weren't too many aircrafts going zoop, zoop then. In fact, I don't know of too many doing it now. They then seemed to all just go in every kind of direction. They scattered. The formation was broken. He was aware of some that seemed to come under him, a couple that seemed to go overhead. And they made these 90-degree turns, stopped, spun around. He states that he felt like there was kind of a green glow or something entering into his cabin. He's not really sure. Then they all stacked up again where he originally saw them, and swoop. They went from horizon to horizon in less than 3.5 seconds. He landed, was kind of shook up, and because he was a millionaire, they listened to him. And they asked him, what did he see? Could he describe it? So the best thing he could describe, it looked as though somebody had taken a saucer that you set a teacup into, turn it upside down, and skim it, much like we get the little disc that swim around now and the kids play with. It's been asked again, well, why hasn't it ever been seen again by any kind of Air Force personnel, if you would, or somebody supposed to be trained in things that run, bump, and so in the sky? First of all, this is a picture Kenneth Arnold. These are quite old, that's why I have them embossed. And this is him, I don't know if you can see in the back or not, but it's a picture of him by the plane after he landed. Again, this is June 24th, 1947, first seen over Mount Rainier, 2 p.m. Okay, Kenneth Arnold. He coined the phrase then flying saucer because that's what it looked like. Next question again is, well, why hasn't it ever been seen, as I say, by anybody that's trained and so on like that? We have what is called then the case of Captain Thomas Mantell. Captain Thomas Mantell's incident happened January 7th, 1948. And at that time, Captain Thomas Mantell was an Air Force ace during World War II. He shot down 5 different enemy planes, had not been shot down himself, and was a commander of a squadron that was ferrying material to Godman Air Force Base in Lexington, Kentucky. The key to remember on this little story is that as he and his flight came toward the base, the tower person contacted him by radio and stated not to land, but if any of his flight had to, because this guy had a souped-up model, being an Air Force ace, his plane had extra wing tanks, that he wanted him to try to find out, seek out a bogey that had been buzzing the base for over 45 minutes. Now that should be remembered. Contact was from the tower man to him. He asked for coordinates, what did it look like, so on and so forth. He said it seemed to have been kind of round, it reflected light or was glowing, they didn't know, but it was interfering with communications. They had already asked for some fighters to be sent up there, but they had not arrived yet. At any rate, at the Air Force tower man's direction, he been buzzing around. To bring this little story to an end, he finally says, I see it. It has been keeping itself between the sun and I, or near the sun, and I couldn't see it before. He says, it seems to be moving in darting angles. Well, he did not have radar on board. The radar was in the tower. So the radar man began to try to get him closer to this bogey, which actually turned out to be a UFO. The 3 last communications were from Captain Thomas Mantell that I see it, and it's accelerating at tremendous speed. I'm going to try and go up and catch it. Next one was, I have it in full view. It seems to be metallic. The last one was, there seems to be an open, my God is tremendous in size, it seems to be enlarged, and then that was it, something along that line, paraphrasing. The reports were that they had found Captain Thomas Mantell's plane broken into with no body inside. Another report was issued about 20 minutes later that they'd found the wreckage of his plane scattered over a 50-mile area and no one inside. The last one was that they had not found Captain Thomas Mantell, but that the plane had been striation marks or disintegrating marks throughout it. Now, obviously, all three did not happen. What is key is this. The Air Force stated that Captain Thomas Mantell had chased the planet Venus to his death. Now, you think about that. That was the official Air Force statement. Captain Thomas Mantell had chased the planet Venus to his death. Now, that means that anytime Venus is in the horizon, Air Force tower persons tell a crack ace who'd been dodging guys trying to shoot him down during World War II to chase it. And being a crack ace, he chases Venus. And Venus makes 90-degree turns. Venus is chased for 20 minutes, and Venus has been hovering around the field for 40 minutes. And it means anytime Venus is on the horizon, you better watch out because you might have Air Force planes crashing down on you chasing Venus. Now, it's terrible to feel that a man lost his life over such foolishness, but it also shows what the Air Force in 1947 thought about you, the public, about what your opinions were and what you take or not take. First man killed in a saucer incident, Captain Thomas Mantell. First man killed in a saucer incident, Captain Thomas Mantell. Another question that's sometimes asked is, well, why is it that they have never really landed so people could see them? For instance, why didn't they come over the White House? Why didn't they land on the Pentagon? Why didn't they come to places where everyone that could really see them would see them and the press would be out and so on and so forth? Answer to that is they have. The first time that they came over the White House of the United States was July 19th, 1952. Write the date down because a lot of people don't know about that. July 19th, 1952, when they came over the White House of the United States. Their first approach was at 11:40 at night, 11:40, 20 minutes to 12 at night, and they dispersed the 142nd Fighter Interceptor Group to get them. 142nd Fighter Interceptor Group. What happened was, and this is pretty much the story, might deviate a little bit, but the best of my recollection and the rest of my understanding, this is what it is. When they first came over, nobody flies over the White House. Non-commercial flights of the White House meet with death, arrest, and imprisonment for life, or else, whatever else they can throw at you. So they scrambled across Potomac, a black, now I didn't say black in color meaning black people. I think that's a little bit too loud there, brother. It's kind of getting the feedback on me. It was pretty good, I think, before. When they scrambled these jets, again, this was a pursuit squadron that was capable of Mach 2 flight at that time. It means it could go in excess of 1,450 miles an hour at that time. They came over the White House at that time. When this pursuit squadron got there, on the radar that they had, all of these UFOs, 16 of them, vanished from the radar screens. They also vanished from sight because when they looked around, they didn't see them. They went back after 7 minutes because they were burning up fuel at a fast rate. As soon as they left, boop, 16 UFOs again over the White House. Boop, they returned. Boop, they vanished. And then again, you know, whoop, there it is. There they were. Okay. So after some 9 times going on with that one, they said, forget it. You know that's not what they said, but they said, forget it. What's going on? Then they came over and stayed for some 42 minutes over the White House, United States, non-interference because there's nothing they can do about it anyway. Now that would be kind of frightening to tell the people, the citizens, that your president, whether he was there or not, I'm pretty sure after they came over there, if he was there, he wasn't, okay, on the ground, hide. But whatever, if it meant that they couldn't defend successfully the White House, what does this mean about other things? So therefore, it got squelched. But there's a whole report on it, and it's called The Day the Saucers Visited Washington, July 19th, 1952. The day UFOs, flying saucers, because these were around, came over the White House of the United States. Shows a picture of the Air Force wing commander that was scrambled there, gave press interviews. Most of the press interviews were hush-hush. And you can begin to see we're talking about ancient times, way back in the 40s, that they did this. Not will they do it now, they did it back then. There's nothing new about them at all. The point is new is you read the press and believe it, and in most cases you do not get the correct information because they feel you don't deserve it, can't use it, and it'll be detrimental to the security and defense of the United States and defense of the Constitution and other such rhetoric. The point is they didn't want you to know because they were shook up. They couldn't do anything about it, and they didn't want you to know that they were that defenseless.